What class do your guys go? What's your major? What? What's your major? Comp. I've been a rough
It's
very unprofessional, but
all right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys so much. Can everybody hear me? I know these mics aren't the most reliable sometimes. All right, so thank you all so much for coming to this forum. My name is Brian Barak, and I'm the president of Student Government Association here. And we are super excited to have an incredible panel and an incredible audience here for this event on campus safety and public safety. So this is the brainchild of a few people within SGA and a few people within SAAC, which is the Student Athletic Advisory Committee. So before I turn it over to Danielle to introduce herself, a few ground rules for tonight's forum. Tommy Reese, can you wave to everybody really quick? Tommy will have the microphones, and he'll be passing that out to all of you for your questions. Ryan, can you raise your hand in the back there? That's Ryan Pearson. He is Student Government's Vice President of Communications. And if you guys see that little black cylinder right there in the middle of the room, that is actually a live stream camera. So as of right now, we are live on the SGA YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook accounts. So if you guys really like this and want to share it with your families, your grandma, your grandpa, whoever it may be, contact Ryan afterwards and we will get you in touch for that. So that being said, a few other ground rules. We are going to end right at 9 o'clock. Just being aware of all of our time as students with homework and Monday coming up tomorrow, and all of our panelists' time as well. So if you guys do have the mic, please be cognizant of everyone's time. This is a pretty highly anticipated event, and I'm sure all of you have a lot of very good and very important questions. So just be aware of that as we are going through tonight. Again, thank you all so much for coming. We're really excited to have you all. And with that, I will turn things over to Danielle.
Thank you, Brian. Like he said, I'm Danielle Ruffalo. I'm the president of the Student Athletic Advisory Committee this year. Something that we really thought was good about our student body is that there's a platform for us to talk about the issues and things that we really want to address on our campus environment. And we have a great panel, like Brian said, obviously the most powerful people at our school in leadership. And this is a great opportunity for us to ask questions. So we've met with our panel and they are ready to answer your questions. They're able to be transparent with you. So please, please participate. This is an amazing opportunity. Hopefully we can have things like this in the future if it is successful. So we're relying on you guys to ask questions. Don't be afraid to do so. And thank you guys for coming out.
So yeah, again, Erica, if you want to wave, this is the Vice President of Student Government Association. When we were running for election and throughout the end of last year and into this year, we've noticed a little bit of negativity surrounding government, both in the nation and here on campus. And tonight is really an opportunity for you guys to, as Danielle said, ask any questions that you guys might have. Our hope is that this will alleviate some concern on campus, it will answer some questions, and it will make things a lot more clear. That being said, if our panel wants to briefly introduce themselves really quickly, that would be awesome before we get started.
Hi. For those that need one of these. My name is Chris Schramm. I am the Associate Vice President and Dean of Students.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm Bill Fisher. I'm Vice President for Student Development.
Eric Spina, President. Riley Chapman, Chief of Police, Executive Director of Public Safety.
Who wants the first question?
Don't be afraid. The hour goes quick.
Okay, so, well, first, my name is Maggie Ward, and I'm a junior here at UD. But I guess this would probably be a question for public safety. But what specifically defines an open container? Like, can you have a water bottle filled with alcohol that's been opened? Is that considered an open container?
Sure. Alcohol that is packaged as alcohol, once the seal is broken, is considered an open container. If you modify water and put alcohol in it, that's considered an open container as well. Just having a cap on it does not take you outside of that. So the suggestion, or to stay within legal bounds, if you have alcohol wherever you are legally allowed to drink it, and if you're going to go to a public place or from one place to another, leave it behind or finish it where you're at.
Thank you.
Could you define like a legally place to drink it?
If you're age to drink alcohol and you're at your house, by all means, enjoy yourself. But if you want to go to a friend's house, finish it at wherever you are, and don't try to transport an alcoholic container that's already open and the seal is broken.
Hi, sorry. Is it true that there's been an increase of enforcement on campus for public safety?
We have seen an increase in enforcement, and we have seen over the past year or two an increase in incivility as it relates to alcohol consumption. We saw a significant last year increase in criminal damaging, vandalism, inter-partner sexual assault, fights, transports to the hospital, incivility to university officials, and just a general uptick of things that are unsafe for the student body. We have responded in kind based upon that, and we responded in kind based upon what the experts and consultants have told us is the best way to keep the campus safe. It is still our desire to engage with you and for you guys to have fun. We want you to have fun, but we also have to provide a safe environment for you in which to do that.
If I could add to that, actually, we started moving in a direction of tightening up our alcohol policies back in 2013, 2014. So that policy was modified to specifically address high-risk drinking. And the stricter enforcement actually started happening in 2013, 2014. So this has been an ongoing issue, and again, the reason for doing so is the safety and security of our students on campus is paramount. But we've also seen some shifts. And so over the course of the past couple of years, we've seen very, very large crowds gathering on Saturdays, which has had to certainly cause us to shift our approach. And whereas sometimes the enforcement would occur on a Thursday or Friday evening, the very, very large gathering of crowds that resulted in destruction of property, transports to the hospital, et cetera, have caused us to approach that particular issue in terms of strict enforcement as well.
A point of housekeeping really quick. If you have the mic, if you could introduce yourself before you ask the question, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, you guys. My name is Erica, as you might know.
And Lexi Silvis, we're tag teaming.
Yeah, okay, so we've kind of like talked a little bit about this. We just feel as if like Brown Street's become a little bit more unsafe over our couple of years at UD. We're juniors. And we're just wondering if you guys have noticed an increase in crime in just like the general area or increased, honestly from Stewart on. So like Panera, Chipotle.
Yeah, by the food or like, but it's really starting at Woodland to like Chipotle area.
So from Stewart North.
Correct. Yeah, like even like up to the Burger King and beyond. So we're just wondering if you guys have noticed like any like more like crime or anything, and what you guys are doing to be proactive in limiting that.
Not so much crime as like for girls, like we just feel kind of uncomfortable being approached by, I don't want to say like homeless, but even at 9 in the morning, there have been people out, you know, asking for money, which I just haven't seen in the past 2 years that I've been here. So I just didn't know if you guys have seen an increase or what we should do if that happens type of thing.
And just to go off that real fast, like as another example, like I run a lot, and so like even like if I'm in a small group and like including like guys with me, like I'll still like be approached. I mean, that's out of our control, but I'm just like, that's just another example.
I'm glad you made the distinction between crime and being approached. I personally haven't noticed an increase in crime. The incivility that you're talking about and being approached by people on the street, again, that's why I applaud these type of events because we need this feedback from you. We want to partner with you. We're hearing that across the nation, people don't want police done to them. People want to be in conjunction with the police. So these are conversations I'd like to have further with the city of Dayton as well as we partner with one another. And certainly with you, especially as there are particular times of day or locations, we certainly want to know about it.
So actually, I appreciate the question and Chief's response. Show of hands. Have other people noticed this as well? Wow. Okay.
Hey, my name is Kaylin. I'm a junior also, and I learned recently, last week, that is it true that we have a cop dedicated to every block in the student neighborhood?
We do not have an officer assigned to a particular block. We have, what's new this year, are 2 community engagement officers. They are, when we are fully staffed with uniform officers, they are engaged in activities that bridge the gap of communication, reduce barriers between the police and students. So they will do things such as man hours at Key Faber on Sunday, Mondays, and Thursdays. They will attend more of your student events. We will do more programming in Key Faber and the like. But in terms of an officer dedicated to a certain block, we're really just adopt the whole campus area.
Chief, if you want to, just in terms of safety and security, can you talk about typically how many officers are on, or is that information
The president was asking about, do we want to talk about the number of officers that are out at a given time? That's a little tricky because our officers work 10-hour shifts. And so there are overlap hours. So there are certain times of the day where you may have as many as 6, sometimes 7 officers working. There are times that you only have 3 officers working. It just kind of depends on how that overlap is and or anticipated demands for service.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So you said you have the community engagement people. I don't know if I used the right term for the blocks around Key Faber. Well, I live around there. Is there any reason why they haven't reached out to even just houses, sent emails I'm blah blah blah, I mainly follow your street, if you feel unsafe, this is my name, just have more of a relationship, we see the cops out but I don't know anyone's name, and if they are dedicated to our streets, I feel be a better relationship. I feel we always look bad to you guys, but we also have never had made a relationship with them. If they're mostly on this side of the student neighborhood, why don't we know who they are?
Well, what you're going to see very, very soon is we're going to have an open house at 461 Key Faber. There are a couple of things that we would like to introduce to you. We would like to introduce the team to the campus community. We'd like to introduce the green vehicle that we've purchased for that community. And we'd like to introduce this new technology that relates to keeping you safe in terms of active shooter and other things, as well as a training module that helps us with such thing as implicit bias. So that's coming up very soon. What I would encourage you to do, and this is not a plug for me, but I encourage all of you to follow me on Instagram, which is at UD Chief Chapman. And I say that because the programming that we do, we put on a very nice program the other day, Stop the Bleed, and that we had 3 students there. We put on a significant number of programs solely designed to interact with you, get to know you so that you feel more comfortable with us. And we're doing our best to get that information out. So I encourage you to follow so that you can get those opportunities to meet the officers, because we are doing a lot of that, and we're just finding out that it's not reaching your ears what we're doing.
Yeah, I would just double down on that. I have many students, sometimes faculty and staff, who have questions regarding public safety. It becomes clear that interaction would be helpful. Chief has met with fraternities, sororities, athletic teams, departments, various organizations, and so on. So this is a great opportunity. If there are questions that you have in a group, in a team that you're on, whatever, don't hesitate to reach out to Chief directly. You're going to reach out to any one of us, and we'll put you in touch with the Chief.
My name is Daniel Miller. I'm a junior, and my question is, Recently, in the past 2 or 3 years, you guys have implemented medical amnesty. What are the effects that you guys have seen so far about that, and what other policies are you guys implementing to encourage safe student behavior?
So let me say a couple things about that. One is, for those of you that don't know, a medical amnesty is if you were to see one of your friends who might have drank too much and you're concerned about them, you can call public safety to assure that they won't get in trouble and for you not to get in trouble, so that we can assure that we want the safety. Your safety is paramount to us. It is the most important thing. I do want to say about medical amnesty, the University of Dayton has had that since 1995. We have one of the first schools to implement it. We called it mitigating circumstance. A lot of students might know it as, Good Samaritan policy. So it has been a part of our landscape for a long time. We implement it when it's necessary and freely, and I think that as long as we continue to talk about it and students know about it, we'll have a good response with it.
The other thing I would just add is that other schools have actually been in contact with us through the years as a result of our approach and have consulted with us, and as a result, that has now started to take on among other colleges and universities. So we're just real pleased that we were able to get ahead of the curve and do this back in the mid-90s.
My name's Lexi, and I'm a junior also. I live in the student neighborhood, and I live on Keith Baker Street. And me and my roommates have noticed just like a change in the safety among the people in the neighborhood, especially like with the break-ins anywhere in the neighborhood. But I do go to the gym early in the morning, especially in the dark, like at 6 a.m. And I've seen like many sketchy cars and people like in the morning walking, and I only have like a 4-minute walk. But last week there's this one car that literally was just parked like right outside our house, and my roommate also saw it when she was walking to the gym like a half hour later. And I was just wondering if there were cops, like, are they patrolling at that hour? And I feel like they should be patrolling. I've never seen one at 6 a.m. when I go, but I feel like I would like to be aware if there are more cops at that hour, just because it is dark still at that time.
We patrol 24 hours a day. We're always open and receptive if there are issues that you are noticing to request extra patrol at a particular time and or location. The one thing I do want to say and suggest is a lot of what we're doing, you'll see us do some what I call soft programming, where we are interacting with you and trying to be silly and take selfies with you and things of that nature. The purpose of that engagement is so that you feel very comfortable with us and get to know some of us personally, so that when these things happen, there's no hesitation in calling us, and you feel that, hey, I know at this time Officer Jones is working, or Officer whomever, and just, hey, there's this car that's been sitting out here. I don't know what it is, but can somebody come by? We're always open for that and want that kind of feedback.
Hi, I'm Kyle and I'm a junior here at this university. This question is directed at Sabina, but anyone can feel free to answer it. It's no secret that this administration is trying to change the drinking culture at this university. But what alternatives are we providing to students to discourage them from going into the neighborhoods and partaking? I mean, I know that we do the concert, and I know that we have the gallery downstairs, but clearly that hasn't been enough in the past. And so are we just ramping up the penalties we're putting on students without giving them more alternatives, or is there a plan to encourage people to provide safe alternatives for students?
So, I want to make clear that, and I talked about this a little bit last year at an open forum that wasn't quite as well attended. There's no intention to drive alcohol out of the university. There's no intention to take away people's fun. I think the student neighborhood is one of the university's greatest assets. It also is a place where we have the greatest amount of risk at the institution. What I think people have seen over some period of time, and I think Vice President Fisher says it's been more than just the last couple of years, is an attempt, I'm using the term guardrails, just to put guardrails around some of the student behavior. I've seen, and there are lots of good things that happen when students are on their porch or having parties with alcohol. But what we want to stop is some of the high-risk behavior that does lead to health and safety problems for students, that does lead to increased incidents of sexual assault, that does lead to fights, that does lead to things that really are not conducive to the primary reason you're here, which is a holistic education we have inside and outside the classroom. So I just want to touch on the first part of your question, indicate, yeah, we are trying to enforce some guardrails, but I assure you, we're not trying to take away people's ability to legally drink, to have fun, to have parties in a responsible way. I'll ask Bill or Chris to talk about the alternative program.
So I appreciate your question around alternatives. We have a campus activities board that is very active, and they plan multiple events throughout the semester on Saturday evenings or on Friday evenings, and they're called, led by students, and they're called late night events that will start at 10 or 11 at night and will go till the earliest hours of the morning. So I'm thinking, as Brian was, were you thinking the same thing?
So they're very active.
Hi, it's Brian. Going to your question, Kyle, I think the issue is that there isn't. Raise your hand if you were here for St. Patrick's Day last year. All right, keep your hands raised if you heard about alternative programming at St. Patrick's Day last year. Exactly. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there were hundreds of thousands even of dollars that were put into alternative programming regarding St. Patrick's Day. The issue is either students didn't hear about it or students didn't attend those events. And that could be for a variety of reasons. Something that I know Eric and I are working on throughout SGA this year is to really survey campus and get your input in what type of alternative events you would like to see. Because a complaint that we typically get is, all right, these alternative events, I'm not interested in them. They're not, what I would typically do in regards to not drinking. So that's something that we're working on. I think there's another issue in not just not having alternative programming, but not having awareness of that alternative programming is something that can be changed. Thanks.
Yeah, and I would just underscore, if people in this room, or really students across campus, have ideas for programming, things that people would engage with and enjoy, and just continue the fun that you'd like to have, bring it forward. Really, there's no shortage of money for activities that can engage our students in productive ways.
Writing that down, no shortage of money.
No, you didn't hear that.
Hi, my name is Michael Sunrover Jr. I wanted to touch on the speaker confiscation. What's the rules behind it? Why it seems like it's been a little bit more rampant this year. Eric actually had an example she wanted to show.
I have just a quick example. No speaker was actually taken, but my house was approached by the police because we did have a speaker in there that I guess was too loud. And so they respectfully asked, and we were respectful as well, and then it all ended. And then we had a meeting with our fellow, and to our understanding, we are essentially kind of in the clear then, it made it seem like if we got approached again, it wouldn't be an issue because she would report to the head fellow. But I don't know, to my understanding, I'm still a little confused, and I feel like we need some clarity surrounding that.
There's several layers to that. One, the prosecutors have told us, and the law allows us to confiscate any noise-making device, speakers, stereos, etc., if they are to abate a noise problem. If that were to occur at any time during the business week, Monday through Friday, you can come and get that speaker. Our preferred method is, so far there's been 7 or 8 that have been taken this year. There is a perception that it's more, and my guess is because if there's a house of 6 people are saying my speaker was taken, and there's a perception, well, there were 6 taken, but the actual number's been 7 or 8. Our preferred method in doing this is to give a warning first, and almost exactly what you described. Our police officers responded, saw your speaker, we talked with you, said it's too loud, you complied, you took it down, and you still have your speaker. That's the preferred method. If we respond and we give a warning and we have to come back, then the option is there for the officer to confiscate the speaker. Did that address all of your?
Yeah, and then just about like the fellow, like, are we kind of like in the clear, like are we kind of pinned, like, okay, that house, like these houses that have been approached, maybe the speakers haven't been taken, but like have been like the police have.
So does the warning get set back to 0?
Right. The warnings do not get set back to 0. So if you are warned on Thursday, it doesn't mean that as long as we don't come back on Thursday, you're in a free and clear. You do the same behavior on Friday. Lost my voice there. But warnings do not reset.
My name is David Yaxon. I'm president of a group called Student Advocates on campus here, and we help advise students who go through the conduct system and just kind of give them some support with what's going on. I've noticed this past semester we've had several cases that are very inconsistent about the way they're dealt with. So students will have like an open container and the police will pull them aside, and sometimes they'll get written up through the school, sometimes they'll get written up through the court system and actually go to court, and sometimes it'll be both. Can you discuss how that's determined and if there's an attempt at consistency there?
I think I have my voice back. There is no one approach that fits all situations. And a large part of enforcement at any police level involves discretion as well as interpretation of what's present. I know we're short on time. I'll give you a quick example. If the speed limit is 35 and you're doing 40 miles an hour, you're technically breaking the law, but typically that's acceptable. You could be doing 40 miles an hour on that same street during a snowstorm, and that's unreasonable for the conditions. So what you're describing is, as I was saying, there's no one approach that fits all situations. Sometimes a party with a small number of people have egregious behavior or an inordinate amount of noise, and that party may be dealt with more harshly than a larger attended party that's behaving in bounds with our values and the law. And it all just depends on what's present. It also depends on the interaction that we have with students. We just talked about a situation with a speaker where police officers responded, addressed the issue very politely. The students complied, turned down the noise, removed the speaker, and everybody went about their way. There are times that we are seeing that students have exhibited extreme incivility to the police and disrespect to the police. And when an officer has that type of discretion and you engage in that behavior, the officer is likely to give you the referral and the criminal citation. But again, it's all dependent upon the circumstances at the time.
My name's Sam Pennyman. So my question kind of deals with St. Patrick's Day again, and I feel like a lot of people think the administration is trying to take away what St. Patrick's Day used to be, and we talked about alternative events and different things, and I think a lot of the time these alternative events don't really resonate with the normal student. So I think changing the atmosphere of St. Patrick's Day, instead of completely trying to hit it with a sledgehammer, take it away theoretically, more or less turn it into a community event, you know, bring in food trucks, close down Lowe's Street, kind of contain the event to a point where it doesn't get to like the situation where we saw last year, which was unacceptable from obviously the administrative standpoint and from a student standpoint.
one of the things I'll say in response to that is we have done just that. I've been here for 10 years, and throughout the years we run alternative events right around the area where St. Patrick's is occurring, and they're all running concurrently. We also have gone to great lengths to provide food to students in the neighborhood. For a number of years, we supplied pizza. And then if it's not pizza, then we make sure that there's a ton of water on all the different blocks of the neighborhood, as well as pretzels. So we spend a good amount of financial resources to do just what you're suggesting. The reality of it is that what happened last year, and it was very, 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 very concerning.
We've worked with, I think that we can't forget. So I've been at the university a while. I have been here when we didn't have a St. Patrick's Day where, break was over it. I've been here when we had it and it kind of started off small, and these last few years it has just continued to ramp up. We're not finding, and I know that we have said this to you all before, we know that this is not the majority of the University of Dayton students. What we are managing when we get out there at that time is this minority of either students, and we also know outside folks that come and just kind of just throw a fire to the flame. We know that what happens here, this is not a gated community. We are open, and we are open to the public. So our kind of tempered approach, as you said, to kind of go with it, we've embraced it, we've tried to acknowledge it, we've put other functions and activities in, but there always seems to be just this kind of push and this nudge to where it just goes up like that. So what we end up fighting, and we've said this before, there's almost this minority that kind of ruins it for the majority. And that's too much of a risk for us to continue to manage.
The other thing that I'd add is really the full week spring break was coming back. We really haven't talked about, I think, for about at least 2 to 3 years, if not longer. And the decision had been made to have a full week spring break even before St. Patrick's Day. And St. Patrick's Day wasn't the impetus to do that. It really was. I think there was a survey done across campus of faculty, staff, and students, and it was mixed. But the feeling is, most other universities have a full week spring break for a variety of reasons that make sense in terms of students, in terms of faculty, in terms of what happens in the classroom. And so last year isn't the reason that we're going to a full week spring break. We're going to have the full week. We'll evaluate it as we go along in terms of how the university responds to that. But at this point, we're certainly going to have that break.
Hi. Oh gosh. Okay. I'm Jillian. I'm a junior. I was just kind of going off of your comment about the university being an open community. With that, I live in the South Student neighborhood, and there's been instances either like this time at night when it's really dark, or even in the morning when my roommate has to go to work. There's been instances where there's been not university students like rummaging through trash, and I just wanted to know, like, is that something that's acceptable, or is that something we should just turn a blind eye to, or if there's anything that should like be done in order to like seize that?
Well, one, I don't want you to turn a blind eye to anything that's you're not comfortable with. You can always call, and we'll always respond, and if it's nothing, it's nothing. If it's something, we'll deal with it appropriately. Again, I want to suggest that, one, I think the key towards mitigating a lot of that is the opportunities that we have to integrate ourselves with you. So the more engagement we have with the students, the more comfortable you are in making that call. It is problematic for us with some of the behavior that we hear about if it's being conducted by people who are young in age. That's everybody in the student neighborhood, so we don't know if this person belongs or does not belong. And the only way we can really truly get to that information is when you guys call and engage with us. So I'm taking notes. I'll be sharing all of your concerns with our department, and we'll have an internal meeting, and we'll talk about ways in which we can improve, because we always want to improve. We always want to police better today than we did yesterday. But I'm also going to always suggest to you guys, reach out to us. Please feel comfortable reaching out. Part of the reason why I'm here now is to show we're open and transparent, and we want to serve you better.
Is this in the alleys behind the house?
Yeah, like around Evanston, in between Lowe's and Keyfaber. That's where it happens a lot.
Thanks. Yeah, I would just reiterate, if anyone in the student neighborhood sees something that they have a question about or concern about, call.
Hi, my name is SGAxSAAC. I was wondering, are our UD smoking policies, are they going with like the rise in e-cigarette usage on campus, specifically Juuls? And in that case, will our university ever be smoke-free?
So I appreciate that question. We continue to evaluate whether to keep the current policy as is, or whether to take it one step further and become completely tobacco-free. We have done some initial surveying. We've done a lot of work around that, and quite frankly, most of the community seems to be pretty satisfied with the current policy. To your question about e-cigarettes and Juuls, that is a violation of our smoking policy, and so that when we do see that, we do request that activity stop, or that it take place in a designated smoking area. But I do appreciate the question, because this is an issue that is under study.
I'll just say that I've been impressed by the work that groups have done before I arrived and since I've arrived, really understanding student, faculty, staff perspectives on smoking. And Vice President Fisher has led that discussion, something the President's cabinet has talked about a couple of times. So trying to stay in tune with really what the students, faculty, and staff are saying, not trying to go too fast.
Hi, my name is Abby Leeser. I'm a junior at Dayton. I'd like to start off by saying I really appreciate this panel and this discussion. I find it extremely respectful and informative, and I really appreciate it. My question is for Mr. Chapman. I was curious if the campus police take negative feedback regarding possible violations made by their police officers, or if a student feels as if they were violated, or in any way that situation was not handled properly, if there's a way to give feedback to the police as if they felt as if they were approached in a poor manner or in a disrespectful manner by an officer.
A very great question, and I'm glad that you brought that up. I want to know anytime our officers engage in behavior that's not up to my standards or not professional. I want to know that, because if they engage in that behavior and they're not held accountable to it, they're likely to repeat it. And that behavior then just spreads and magnifies its impact on our community. So anytime that you have a complaint or question, feel free to contact public safety and ask to speak to a supervisor. If you do that and the supervisor comes out to talk to you, and the supervisor is the person engaged in that behavior, they know to seek a different supervisor. And you should never feel like you're making a complaint against an officer and you're making that complaint to the offending officer or perceived offending officer. But we welcome that. That's the only way we can get better.
So, well, the chain of command here, the chief reports to Vice President Fisher, reports to me. Whenever we hear this, it comes to me, it goes to Bill. We all take that very seriously, and there are conversations that are had. So, again, one of the reasons we think Chief is doing a great job is he holds his folks accountable. So we need to know if there's something going on that's not going on.
And just chiming in on that, I think there's also things that we can do as students to sort of be more informed about our rights. I know David had a question earlier. He's in the back with student advocates. They do an awesome job in terms of informing student bodies about what our rights are, both with the University of Dayton Police and the City of Dayton Police. I have had incredible experiences with vast majority of public safety. There was an experience this week where I got pulled over by a police officer, and I didn't think it was justified at all because the officer did not inform me why I was pulled over, and just basically asked if I had been drinking. I had not been, and it was a very negative experience, but having that information and knowing sort of your rights and where you stand will help you out in the future.
If I could just add, what I hear sometimes from students is that they're reluctant to go to public safety, to file a report or register a concern or a complaint about a particular officer's behavior towards a student or students. Please know that in lieu of that, you can simply file your concern or get in touch with me, and I will make sure that that information is in fact investigated to the fullest extent. So there are multiple ways to make sure that your concerns are addressed.
I don't want to be the dead horse too, but if the complaint is related to something of a bias-related manner, feel free to contact Equity and Compliance as well. Equity Compliance, they are an intake for that, and they appropriately farm it out to the appropriate people to investigate it.
Hi, I'm Alec Jonikieski, and I'm a freshman here. So there's been concerns about crowds and large groups brought up by this panel, but there was a specific instance earlier this year where actions by the university caused a small crowd, similar large crowd to gather, and that was the October governor's debate that was held on the River campus. And just for context, in July, the Libertarian Party of Ohio submitted a more than the required 54,965 signatures to ensure voters would have more choices on the election day, which is coming up in 2 days, I believe. So please vote. The Green Party did similar measures. Yet, there have been legal complaints filed in lieu of this action with potential breaking of state election laws because the university withheld 2 candidates who were on the ballot for the governor's debate to participate. So my question is, if a similar debate were to be held in the future, would the university welcome all candidates who are on the ballot or no, because the action did cause crowds to gather on the River campus?
I think this is one for me. Unless Danielle. So thanks for your question. So let me reiterate one thing you said. Vote, everyone. If you haven't voted absentee or early, Tuesday is the deadline. So please participate. Whichever way you vote, it's important to vote. So we did hold for the first time, at least in recent memory, I understand, a gubernatorial debate on campus, which was really a great opportunity for the university and for a lot of students who engaged. We are aware of a complaint that's been filed with the Federal Election Committee, and we are working on that. All 3 gubernatorial debates set ahead of time an expectation of 15% polling to participate in the debate. That certainly is controversial in some quarters, and we understand that. But in order to provide in a relatively short period of time, a little bit less than an hour, a full debate among candidates with strong support across the state, there was a decision that was made not only by this university, another university that held debates, but also by the Ohio Election Committee. So understand the disappointment, but given the circumstance, we felt that was the right way to run that.
Hi, my name is Maya. I'm a sophomore, and as an SGA member, it has been brought to my attention by some fellow flyers concerns about the emergency lights around campus. So around campus, there are blue emergency poles, and there's a button that you can press if you need help. So you can call public safety without using your phone to call public safety. Some fellow flyers have raised concern about the response time to
to those buttons. So to give some context, the button was pressed on Woodland, and they timed it, and it took about 15 minutes for public safety to respond. Could you provide some insight into what happens when a student presses that button? How long do you plan to respond to a call when we call for an emergency? And any ways that you guys are seeking to respond as fast as possible? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. The blue lights, we treat those blue lights as we do a regular phone call. And so our response time on phone calls as well as the blue lights typically is about 3 minutes or so, depending on, again, there's no magic number based on what calls we might be on. I think the only way to really address the Woodland incident that might be on students' minds is if we get more immediate feedback of that, because 15 minutes is unacceptable. We have a mutual aid agreement with the city of Dayton. We have a mutual aid agreement with the city of Oakwood, and if we're unavailable and can't respond in a reasonable amount of time, we'll get on the radio and call them and say, University of Dayton requesting assistance from whomever would be appropriate, because 15 minutes is too long. That would be disconcerting for me as well. But without the date and time, I can't really investigate that. All of our calls, when they come into, whether it's blue lights or a phone call, we have a tracking system of when we got the call, when it was dispatched, when the officer arrived, and when the officer cleared the call. And so anytime you have an issue like that, please reach out to us so that we can investigate it and provide an answer if there is some circumstance that we aren't aware of. I don't know if this is the case, and I don't want to take too much time. By process, an incident did come to my attention where it took us 45 minutes to get there. This was a car accident, and just by protocol, the city of Dayton responds to and takes accidents on the streets. And so we saw that there was an accident involving a student. The city of Dayton was dispatched, and we thought no more of it. Apparently, the city of Dayton had a priority run, and that officer dispatched to the call was diverted to some other place, and we weren't aware that that had occurred. And then when the student called, we said, oh my God, we got there within 2 minutes, but that student had waited 45 minutes. And sometimes when those things happen, there are some explanation for it. So if we can get immediate feedback, we'd love to investigate that further.
So that's a specific request for kind of date and time.
About the path point system and someone that takes like a full course schedule, has a job, and wants to be involved in extracurriculars, do you think that it helps us and benefits us, like versus other things, just because of like if I give you, for example, my schedule and you think it's like correct, I don't know if you're asking this right, like to also add on the path point system to my schedule, and have you guys thought about implementing something different?
So yes to all of it. Next question. No. Brian, I'm going to let you jump in.
I just want to say, Erica and I are actually meeting with AV8 this week to talk about this very issue, and that is an open invitation. If any of you after the meeting, we'll bring it up at that meeting with AV8, because that is obviously a concern we voiced too, right? A lot of people here are in student government, and that's a very popular concern among student government members. It's okay, we're taking a full course load. We are, do you have a job on campus? Yeah, I have a job on campus. And from my interactions with AV8, number one, I've learned that they're all actually very nice people, despite having a very negative view on campus. Yeah. So, and I think Chris is more suited to answer this than myself. The purpose is very intentional. So, from my understanding of it, and I'll turn it over to Chris in a second, but when you come here as a first-year student, you don't get to choose where you live, right? It's you choose your roommate and you're assigned somewhere. Your sophomore year, you have a little bit more options, right? Then your junior and senior year, you have almost 600 locations that you could potentially be chosen. So from my understanding and from my interactions of it, it's very intentionally designed to give us more responsibility as we sort of matriculate through the years. In addition to that, every single path event, like the one we have tonight, has a certain learning outcome, and it's meant for us to bring people together. Like this would never happen. Like how many of you came here for the pathway? Like yeah, right. And so we wouldn't be having these conversations if we didn't have this system. You know what I mean? Because before that, we've had this system, from my understanding, whenever we would have events like this, they weren't being attended. Or they were only being attended by the people who really didn't need to get that message. So that's sort of another pro. Obviously, there are a lot of downsides that students are seeing, and that's something that Erica and I plan on bringing up next week at our meeting.
Yeah, please.
Do you guys consider our schedule? Just because you guys have a higher up stay in our school.
Yep.
Do you guys think about this and think it's fair in our schedules and our full course load and jobs and wanting to be involved in things? I'm just curious.
Sure. So I think that I know that we do, and I know that we do by the kind of considerations that are made. To include, there are programs that you can attend to. There's things that are done online. There's ways in which your roommates can help in this participation as a community. The classroom is why we are here, but some of the most impactful things that happen at a university are out of the classroom. And we know that these kind of events help and facilitate so much learning, and we want to create the incentive, which, let me tell you what that incentive is, our housing. It is so important here at the University of Dayton. And we want to be able for you to create the kind of independence and agency to be able to choose your house, to choose your apartment, without it being a lottery system. We had a lottery system, and let me share with you, there were more complaints than we do right now. We all can't put 6,000 students on that one block. It's about taking advantage of lots of different open the door to a whole different understanding of university life and living on a residential campus.
The thing I would just say is that we asked 3 years based upon, and we will continue to do that based upon student feedback. So there have been adjustments. Just keep in mind that it's the group total that matters. And there are many path credits that you can earn simply from behind your computer at your leisure. But again, we are always looking to continuously improve the system. But to Chris's point, the lottery system was something that students said this has got to stop. So, and there were students that were involved actually in the development of many students who were in favor of it. Thank you. Thanks for the question.
It makes sense in the long run. I was just curious.
Yeah, no.
We have a couple more lined up, and then we're going to cut it off, unfortunately, because of time, so go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Jeff. I'm a junior here. So this is more kind of for public safety. A couple weeks ago, my roommate's car was stolen in Fireside neighborhood, and his girlfriend's roommate's car was also stolen. I realize that's off campus, but one of the ways that we were able to kind of was that my landlord in the summer had cameras in the alley, and we kind of had a description of what they looked like. I live on Woodland, and on trash night, sometimes I come home from work and my parking spot's blocked because there's people trying to get cans, and I have to wait for them to get their cans. They don't move; they just fish in my trash can. Has there ever been any consideration of every couple houses kind of having cameras facing alleys? Because I know even Woodland, I always see people walking back there, and I come home late from work from Milano's, and there's people walking around my car whenever I'm back there. So I was just kind of curious because I know my summer landlord, we've had a couple break-ins over the summer, and she was able to kind of report what the guys looked like because of her cameras. So
just a point of clarification. Do you live in the Fairgrounds?
No, I live Woodland now. I live in Fairgrounds in the summer.
Okay.
But yeah, his car was stolen in Fairgrounds neighborhood a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
As far as public safety is concerned, cameras are our friend. We love cameras. We are not the body that buys them, installs them, or anything like that. As it relates to on-campus and campus properties, we have now an emergency response team that's evaluating infrastructure and access control to the whole campus, and we're looking at we're actually been meeting every week since February to address issues related to cameras, panic buttons, and all things related to campus emergencies and emergencies around the campus community. The final product of that committee will be some recommendations for things, and we're just not finished yet. But I do anticipate that we will be making recommendations to those who can make some things happen of more cameras to better safeguard our community.
Okay, so this is kind of related to what he just talked about. So I understand that the Fairgrounds neighborhood, that includes like the Fairgrounds Street, Jasper Street, Frank Street, are those not in UD Public Safety's jurisdiction? Are those streets not?
They are not.
Okay, so what, if any, communication is there between whoever patrols those streets and Dayton Public Safety to understand like what is going on in that neighborhood? Because there are a lot of UD students that live there, and I do think would be valuable for UD Public Safety to kind of understand what is happening in those neighborhoods. So do you guys communicate with whoever patrols those neighborhoods? Is it the city of Dayton?
That's correct. We do communicate with them very frequently. In fact, we work with a significant number of them on Saturdays. They help augment our patrol strength on Saturdays, so we meet with their leadership every week. There are some higher level meetings that we have with them that are intentional just to share information. There are some other committees that we're on together and groups that we're on together, so we talk. Again, your feedback is vital to this, but the issues that you raised, we're already addressing that with the city of Dayton.
Okay.
Actually, Brian, let me just jump in real quick. So, my understanding is once upon a time, when the Fairgrounds neighborhood was redeveloped, there weren't any students. We are aware that over the last years, maybe 4 or 5 years, more and more students are living there. So we've become aware that there are increasing concerns. We're in the process of gathering information. Certainly, Chief is coordinating well with the city. But we are paying attention. Even this question will be helpful for us as we think about going forward.
Just going off of that point, this is a concern that has been voiced very loudly this year about sort of lack of safety, safe feeling in that area of the student neighborhood. And this is a concern that SGA has heard, and this is something that we will be available to you. Erica is quite literally in a group meet of all residents of that neighborhood. We're constantly getting and actually knowing what's going on in that neighborhood. We met with Dr. Spina and with Bill, I think 2 weeks ago, to discuss that sort of petition to change jurisdiction and to add to jurisdiction. SGA is also right now ironing out whether or not we're going to actually create a new SGA committee on student safety. And in addition, Joe Myers, can you raise your hand in the back there? Awesome. So Joe is a member of what is called ACOPS. ACOPS is a group that is basically designated to improving public safety and taking all of your concerns and trying to make public safety better for our students on campus. This is a resource that I don't think a lot of students know about or utilize. So if you have any specific concerns, talk to that good-looking guy back there in the blue shirt. Thank you.
And to echo what Brian was just saying, it's amazing that you guys all came out here, whether or not you came for a path point or not. It's really great to hear about that everybody could talk about their issues and concerns. That's what this panel so graciously came here to address, your issues. So as we move forward, we're hoping SGA and SAAC maybe to work on more panels like this, just because we do genuinely care about the concerns, and it's awesome that you guys were able to do something about the issues that you have. That's what we want. We want to make a change, and we have the power to do that. So with that, I'm going to have Dr. Spina say a few final words.
I get the last word. So I know no one is really here for the path. You're just here to chat. But I just want to, one of the things that I love about UD is people in this community take ownership of the community. And you're being here with really thoughtful questions. We're all taking notes here. You guys really will, we're going to follow up on all of these. So I just thank you for being here. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. And thank you for what you do really every day to care about this community. And that's really, I think, distinguishes us from a lot of other colleges. So again, we just thank you all for your time, your attention, and really just being here and caring about it. Thanks.
All right, just a few housekeeping things. So to actually receive your PATH credit, you guys all have like quarter sheets that have some questions on it. You need to turn that into Ryan. You'll be turning that into the table over here. Putting it on that table, and then go see Ryan for your PATH point. Again, thank you all so much. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks to